I'm Scott, Scott Tunn. Some of you may know me already, some students in the room, and there's also some people I've worked with at places like IBM and other various places, so good day to everyone who knows me and who doesn't. My name's Scott Tunn. My background is in best practices. I've been working in that field for about 15 years now. Someone called Marcus Binet. Anyone know Marcus Binet? Yes, you do. Marcus Binet was the guy. He said to me, "Do you want to do an ITIL course?" And I said, "Yeah, all right. What is it?" I had no idea. And he said, "You will like it. Come and try it." So I came and tried it and haven't looked back since. And best practices has been the way for me ever since. So I went into that field and predominantly went into process management. And by the way, here's Peter Cross, the Peter. He was mentioned at the start of the presentation. Yeah, so I went into that field of process management, that sort of thing, and started to get some work in that field. And then I thought, I'll go for my own thing and start running training courses. But obviously, it's very hard in the world of training, so I partnered up with HDAA, and we write all the courses for HDAA. I'm a certified expert, have been for many years, and there's, as you know, there's an ITIL course coming up very soon. I'm the author of that course. But there's also books coming out. So there's the foundation books and there's some intermediate books and intermediate courses which will be released later this year. I'll be one of the authors of those books as well. So very closely tied to the current version and previous versions through the different various type jobs I've had and the experience I've had around the world. So we're based in Adelaide, and as I said, we are partners with HDAA. Okay, so we're here to learn about ITIL 4 and what's new and course information and what's going on. Has anyone done any reading about it? No? You haven't seen anything from Axios people, sir? Yeah? Okay. Anyone here certified at V1 level? Who started when it started back in 1989? Okay. Ian? Anyone else? V2? Okay. V3? Show of hands. Anyone not certified in ITIL at all? Okay. Covered? That's fine. So what we need to learn about is the new ITIL 4 certification and what it's all about. And we discuss the certification scenarios to help you attain your desired certification level. If you are already V3, how do you bridge over and when can we do that? The similarities. Now, there hasn't been much work done by anyone in the world at the moment on the similarities between V3 and V4. As I said, we're specialists in that field and we've gone and analysed it to death and found what can we pull out of V3 so you can learn V4 as simply as possible. And you'll see what we've done as part of this presentation to make it as simple as possible. It's the point where you may not even have to do the whole course anymore. It's just a couple of modules here and there. We've got tools and assessments that can allow you to do that. So we're at the forefront, I think, of being able to educate you and help you go back to your workplace. Because at the end of the day, it's all good having a certification, right? But isn't it better to go back with that certification, apply the knowledge and make your life a lot easier and not have all those spotlights all the time? Would you agree? Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So that's what we're trying to do here. And I'm going to show you how the course is structured, the course options available, so you'll be surprised at that, no doubt, and also what tools are available, and there's a bit of a presentation there on that. It's a tool we've been working on with HDAA to make that available to you to educate you and find out your efficiency. So for those who don't know, ITIL started back in 1989. What were you doing in 1989? Were you in computers? You were? I was in high school and we had those green screen computers with Granny's Garden on them. I'm not sure if anyone remembers that. Fantastic game. So back then, when it first started, and it's progressed over time to the point where it's revised just recently, as you know, to ITIL 4. Now, ITIL 3 used a life cycle model, if you weren't familiar. What did you think of the life cycle model? Do you think it was any good? Do you think it was helpful to understand different? Well, they've changed that now. So they no longer have a life cycle. We'll go into that in a moment. I guess that's because things progress and technology changes. Do you think we're still going to have the same technology today in 5 years' time? I brought along this today. I didn't get a chance to set up. Anyone seen one of these before? It's a gimbal. Okay, I can put my mobile phone in it, and it's got an app and it follows me around and it records me and does everything, and it's really a fantastic piece of technology. In 5 years' time, that won't exist. Yeah? So we need to keep up with the times, and that's why we've gone to the version 4, because we're starting to increase different frameworks. You've heard of Agile frameworks and DevOps. They're starting to integrate those into ITIL now to make it a more holistic approach as opposed to just, here's ITIL, do this, and not consider anything else. We want to try and incorporate everything as much as possible. So if you've gone down that pathway of ITIL V3, is there anyone at this level up here, along this level, who've done maybe one or two intermediates and hasn't quite gone the full length and gone, geez, they're bringing up urgent forward, what do? Do I stop now or do I continue on? If you've got that question, you should be thinking, well, I should continue on with the pathway along this, because what we can show you in the next slide is you can bridge across. So if you start off at foundation, if you're here at foundation, you get 2 points, and then for each life cycle you get 3, and each one you get 4. Now these certification, these courses are still running until 2020. So you've got a fair bit of time up your sleeve. You don't have to rush, you can take your time. I would suggest maybe one course every 3 months if you want to go to the door, because they're usually fairly long. They're about a 4-day course on average. So the knowledge that you learn in V3 is still valid in V4. And I'll show you a breakdown in a slide later on. It's only about 26% new information. And they talk about things like a service value system, a service value chain. So there's a couple of new topics there to learn about, but it does integrate very well with the V3. Has anyone done the practitioner course? Anyone here know about practitioner? What do you find? What do you think of the practitioner?
It's very good and good.
Do you think it helped you to apply the concepts?
Yes.
Yeah, Barbara, have you done it? Yeah. So if you've ever done foundation, it's very good because it helps to set that foundation. But what quite often happened, people went on to the intermediates and didn't really know how to apply it. And they went back to the workplace and go, great, I've got a certification. And you don't know how to apply it. So that's why they thought, let's put practitioner in there to help to practice it. And it's no different to going to your GP and practicing medicine on your own, a general practitioner. So that's what we wanted to do, was help you practice these concepts. Practitioner is now a part of the foundation of V4. And I'll show you what we're talking about here. So they've taken the structure down where we had, I'll just go back a bit, just go to show that we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12 including the mouth. It's a lot of courses. It's made it much more simplified now. We've got a ITIL managing professional and an ITIL strategic leader, which is made up of these 2 courses here, which is direct, plan and improve, digital and IT strategy, or you can take this stream. It's sort of like the life cycle capability streams. It's a little bit different. Now, if you want to become a certified master, you'd have to have both of those, the ITIL managing professional and the strategic leader together to be able to get that ITIL master. The actual scheme for ITIL master has not been released yet. Previously, to become an ITIL master, it was like a 2-year assessment. You had to write an actual, what do you call it, like a white paper on how you implemented ITIL into your organisation, change processes and increase the capability and document it and have metrics and all these sorts of things to really prove that you're a master. And I think there's only about 2 people in Australia that have that certification. So it was very, very difficult to do. Anyone here been in their organisation more than 2 years? Yeah, it's about half. A lot of people move around these days, so to get that's really quite difficult. So if you start it, you can't stop it halfway. So what we're looking at here is the 4 courses on the left, achieve the managing professional. Now, as I said earlier, I'm just going to back to the back of the slide again. Let's just say you're here, right? You're working on this pathway here, and you've got 17 credits. So you've got 2 here, and you've got 3 here, 3 here, and 3 here, and a few 4 elsewhere, and you make up 15. And you've got 17 points in total. You can actually bridge across. So if you've got 17 credits from V3, you can bridge by just doing that management professional transition. You don't have to do all of these courses here. You don't have to do the foundation course. However, if you don't have 17, you have to find a way. You either continue the study to get 17, or you start from scratch. That can be a challenge, because it takes time and money and resources and effort. And what happens when you usually take time off to do study? Everything goes bananas at work, right? You get back, you've got some mountains of work to do. So we're trying to make it as simple as possible to get you over the line, to get up to that scheme. Is anyone here a certified expert in the room? Okay. Okay, so 17 points, and any experts can come across. Otherwise, you can take this through and see, but these courses have not been developed yet. The actual books for them have not been developed. As I said at the start of the course, at the start of the session today, I'm one of the authors of the intermediate books. I haven't been engaged yet to write them. So they are coming, but if you're thinking of holding off and waiting for them, it could be another 12 months. So you may be better off not stopping your journey and continuing on with V3.
So when are all those books available? Or
they're saying fourth quarter.
20 or 20?
Fourth quarter this year, and if they say fourth quarter, I say first quarter or first half next year. So they will be available by the time the old courses come into retirement in 2020. And they won't be available all at once either. They'll be in stage, phased release. So that's something to consider. And what I might even suggest, I've talked to Ian about this earlier, about offering, if you are going down the intermediate path on the previous version 3s, to offer a bundle where you have the ITIL Foundation 4 thrown in as some sort of deal, so you can at least get your head around the actual concepts they're talking about in V4. So when you're ready for a bridging course, you're already understanding things like this SVS, SVC, and the 4 principles, 4 dimensions of IT service management, that sort of thing. Now, as I said before, we're specialists in writing courseware, and what I try and do, I try and think like a student when I'm writing the courses, and I'll analyse it to death. And if you can give me any feedback to improve it, I'm happy to take it on. Okay, that's what we're about. We're about educating you and making it easy for you. We've broken it down by weighting each module. So that's exam weighting. Okay, so you can actually see quite easily, and I'll show you later on how we integrate that into our courseware. We've broken it down to 7 modules, and they've got these things called Bloom's levels. Anyone heard of Bloom's levels before? Ian has, thanks Ian. Ian's got all the answers. And Peter, thanks. I'll talk more about Bloom's if you haven't heard about Bloom's in a moment. But this is how we're going to run the course. It's going to be 7 modules. There'll be 2 options initially, which will be a 2-day and a 3-day. So the 2-day will be very intensive, 9 to 5 full on, half an hour lunch break, if you're up for that. Otherwise, it's a 3-day, a bit more relaxed, take your time. Not everyone's got 3 days to spare. So. We do have end of module exercise and questions, mock exams, answers, rationales, and the champions assessment, which I'll explain later. Look at this, 42% on one module is the examination. You know what the good news is? They're all V3 processes that they're based on. So they're talking about incident, problem, change, service desk, stuff that you know backwards. It's real simple stuff. So it's not so harrowing to have almost 50% there. The other one here, which makes up 17%, module 6, is also ITIL V3 practices. And they talk about release, change, capacity, availability, those sorts of things. We'll go more into that about that later. So you've got more than 50% of the exam is actually based on stuff you should already know from V3. Okay. So Bloom's level. The difference between Bloom's level, right? There's 9 questions at level 1, and there's 31 questions at level 2. Now, you're probably thinking, what the hell is that picture doing on that screen there, right? I thought, well, what it says here is the Bloom's level describes the type of thinking needed to answer the question. Level 1 questions need to recall information about the topic you're learning, and level 2 needs to show you understand these concepts. So what is that picture of? A cockpit, everyone knows that. So that's Bloom's level 1, right? Bloom's level 2. How do you use them, the dials? What do they do? What do these switches here do? And the old N-Berg Can you just turn that on for me, thanks, and see what happens? I wouldn't have a clue, because I've got Bloom's level 1, it's a cockpit, that's as far as it goes. So the difference between knowing what something is and understanding how to apply it or how to use that knowledge is the difference between 1 and 2. Now, once we get into the intermediate levels, we're talking about Bloom's levels 3 and 4, really making sense of it and pushing it further than we need to. than we've been given, sort of thing. But we're not going to go into that now, because we're only talking about foundation level. One day, we can do a one-day bridging course for you. How would that fit with you? Would you like to do a one day? Can I have a show of hands? 1 day, 2 day, or 3 day? What would you prefer? 1 day? 2 day? Anyone can handle, or we can take 3 days off of work? Yeah. Yeah, no worries. Got some people there that don't want a 3 day. So we're giving you options. You don't have to do a 3 day. Now, with the 1 day though, we have to use some sort of form of assessment to understand where you're at. And that's where I'll show you at the end of the presentation what we can do to do that. It's called a Champions Assessment, and it helps to understand those different, your capability as an individual. As I said, also the 2 day is an intensity, so we'll be pretty full on. If you don't mind learning fast, and you know, yeah. The thing is, you have to take into consideration here, you've got a lot of V3 stuff in there. You've got 57-ish, 59% of V3 stuff. Would anyone here feel confident in knowing, feel confident with their knowledge in V3? Would you feel confident that you understand incident management, problem management, change management? If someone said to you, what is change management? Would you be able to explain to them what it is? So that's what you need to be asking yourself. If you're feeling comfortable with those sorts of questions, well, 2 days would be fine. But if you're like, oh, I've got no idea, 3 days for you. Okay. Now the 1 day is most likely predominantly going to be online live. We do a lot of online live training. That's one of our major options at the moment that people start to enjoy. I recently studied Steve in online live, and he quite enjoyed it. And there's lots of students do enjoy it because you get the luxury of sitting in your own home or office, just looking at the laptop. You see the slides, and we talk in real time, and it's no different to what I'm doing now, just presenting to you that you're doing it from home. And a lot of people quite enjoy that, so that may be an option for you also. You're not in the workplace, not getting bothered, you can just relax. Now the exam, no different than the exam. 1 hour, 40 questions, 26%. So not 26%, 26 correct. You're right, there's 26%, everyone passed. 65%, but 26 out of 40. Now we ran with PeopleCert, thanks Peter. PeopleCert are the accreditor, or the, what is the exact name? Examination Institute for all exams for ITIL. So if you sit a course with HDAA, they will do independent examinations done by a third party, so it can't be fudged, or we can't modify the answers to make sure everyone passes. Exactly the same as Foundation B3. It is closed book as well. Now, like I said, we ran it just recently, PeopleCert in Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane, I think it was, for all the trainers in the country. And there's about 50 people or so that turned up to all the events, and everyone passed. I think the average pass mark was about 96%. Not to put any pressure on you.
We are talking about trainers that have trainers stuff.
That's what they do all day long, is train stuff. There will be some challenging questions in there, but of course that's why we're doing this training. So 60 minutes, and you can take it in your language. So if you're ESL, English Second Language, you can take it in your language. Peter, can you tell me the options available? Is it English, German, Japanese, Spanish?
It's at the moment English, Spanish, they're working on Japanese, and I think French was launched last week.
So if anyone wants to do it in those languages, or you can just choose English, it's up to you. But there will be more and more languages coming out, because I think there's a stack of languages, like 20 languages in the other version 3, so it's just a matter of getting it translated word for word. The way that what's the nice way of saying it? The way they word those exams is sometimes ambiguous. So I guess you've got to capture the ambiguity in that language. That's what they're trying to do.
The problem is, Scott, that a lot of words in English don't necessarily translate directly into the language, and that's where sometimes the terminology can be a little bit confusing.
60 minutes. as I said. Now, if you are not in your native or working language, you may be awarded 25% extra time, which is always handy. So when you register this is really important, when you register for a PeopleCert account, if you haven't done so before, and you are ESL, or you speak another language at home as your primary language, make sure you select a different language other than English. Because when you set up your account and you select English, they won't give you additional time. If you happen to select a different language, then they will automatically give you that extra time in each exam. You won't have to request it. That's really important. I mean, you can always change it later on, but obviously you don't want to go through that process. Having to update and speak with the service desk. 40 questions, as I said. Now, each is worth 1 mark, and there's no negative marking. So if you get it wrong, you get it wrong, and that's it. You don't lose points. 26, you need 26 questions correct to pass the exam as well. And also multiple choice. So there's types of questions, a classic, missing word, and list. So they might say, for example, for the missing word questions, sentences with a word missing, and you have to select the missing word from the 4 options. Pretty basic stuff. And there's always 4 answers as well. You might, everyone's here sat a ITIL set exam before you, so you might remember that some questions say all of the above, for example. That might be one of the options. So exactly the same structure. Nothing's changed there. So now, what you're here for, right? What's the deal with ITIL 4? The life cycle stages are no longer used. I've got to say, I was disappointed. I really enjoyed the life cycle stages. My favourite was strategy, and they've taken it away. But we've been able to map it, and I'll show you that in a moment. The new kid on the town is SVS, the Service Value System. Does that mean anything to you? No. Sorry?
Not yet.
Not yet, no. There's a service value chain as well, and that resides or forms a part of the SVS. Then the SVC is broken into 6 stages, similar to a life cycle, but different, and that's where I'll show you the mappings there. And they've also got ITIL practitioner guiding principles form a part of the foundation now. I think that's a smart move. I really enjoyed the practitioner course. I enjoyed learning it and also training people in it, because it gave you actual skills you can start to utilise. One of the hardest things to do when you finish a course in ITIL is go, where do I start and get back to the workplace? Because you've got so many holes, you know, that you've got to try and patch, but where's the best place to start? Those guiding principles help you to do that. And I think my favourite from the practitioner is the COD's 8 steps, or along those lines of the organisational change. I think that's a really important factor, and that's a part of the foundation course. And of course, they'll no longer exist from 2020. There is a strong focus on continual improvement and governance. How long have we been talking about ITIL processes? We're talking about incident, problem, change, release, and they're called practices. I think they just threw that in there for a laugh. Can you tell me the difference between a process and a practice? Does that mean anything to you? It's the same one. The average person? Yeah. So let's have a look. Pretty well what they've done, they've taken some new concepts, combined them with ITIL V3 and ITIL practitioner, and you've got the ITIL 4 recipe here. For example, what they've done, they've changed the terminology. So RADM, remember RADM, Release and Deployment Management, is now separate. You have release management and deployment management. And that makes a lot of sense to me. Because one thing you're doing is releasing, the other thing is deploying. It's a separate thing. And yes, you combine them, but I think it's better to have them separate. Change management. They don't call it that anymore. Change control. And I'm with you, Barbara. But what we were able to analyse, that 62.5% comes from ITIL 3. 11.11% come from ITIL practitioner, and the 26.39 is new concepts based on our analysis. Now you might be thinking, well, is it really worth doing the course for only 26%? You think about that. I was thinking about it like, if you were going to buy a car, brand new car, but you could only afford 75% of it, which bits would you take off? windshield, steering wheel. Which, take maybe one wheel, I've got 3 others, you'll be right. So you've got to think about that. I mean, it is new concepts. These are groundbreaking, best practice from the world's best companies. Not stuff that some person in a room, just some boffins come up with. This is based on the Googles, the IBMs, the HPs, all of the top companies in the world that drive most of the managed of the infrastructure have come up with these concepts.
Just a question.
Sure.
How are you able to precisely break down the decimals, fractional decimals in terms of percentages?
We get given a syllabus, and based on that syllabus, I go through that syllabus with a fine-tooth comb, and because I'm a certified expert, I know exactly what's in B3, and I look at all the processes of what's in there and see if I can match it back to the B3 processes. If I can, it's a match, then it goes into the B3 pile if it's from practitioner, vice versa, and then based on that, as a breakdown, it gives it that percentage. I can show you my spreadsheet if you want. It's fairly complex, but I'm quite happy to share that with you if you want to see it. So, as I said before, processes are now known as practices. Now, we talked about Module 6 and Module 7. Module 6, it talked about the 17%, I think it was, and it was Bloom's Level 1. Bloom's Level 2 was 42% off the top of my head. What I've done is taken this from the syllabus. These are all the practices that they currently have that you need to learn about in both Module 6 and Module 7, which you'll be familiar with from B3. Notice, as I said earlier, deployment's separate here from the lease. You've got change control here. You've got these 2 other columns. You've got recall the purpose and recall the definition. Now, recall the purpose is going to be in Module 6 across the board. Recall the definition and what it can do is going to be in the Module 7. So they start to grill you quite heavily, both in Module 6 and 7, on problem management, known error. So anything you've got to match here where it spans across these 2 different columns, you're going to get grilled pretty hard on those to really know what you're talking about. So we've identified that, and we've catered for that in the actual course. Now these numbers here you see on the left-hand side, they're the book references. So if you open up the ITIL Foundation book and you wanted to learn more about change control, you go to section 5.2.4 and there it is. And I'll show you again how we are using that in our courseware to make it easier for you to navigate throughout this course. So as I said before, there's no specific stages in the life cycle from strategy through to CSI. That means there's no set way that the knowledge should be delivered, and as it's a new framework, we're going to run some courses and pilot courses and get some feedback from the students about how they've learned it and if there was any challenges along the way and how we can improve it. We're always willing to take on that continual improvement and feedback. Below is an image of SBS and SVC. So what we've got here is the stages of life cycle, and this one here is this is going to be on the outside here is the SBS. I'll go into it in the next few slides. You've got SVC in the middle of it. So what we quite heavily focused on continual improvement, as you can see here, and you've got guiding principles. I always see this like a hamburger or a sandwich. You imagine you're building building hamburgers, making a hamburger. You've got the buns and you've got the bits in between, and that's what we're talking about here. You've got the governance and practices. So I said at the start of the actual presentation, they're quite heavy on governance, but also continual improvement. So pretty well the way we're looking at it these days is we look at the opportunity or demand that's coming in from the customer, and based on that, these guiding principles which come from ITIL practitioner will guide us as to how we can approach a situation. If we do have a service in place already, we can use potentially continual improvement to meet the needs of that opportunity. But then there's the guts of it here where we have the service value chain, which I'll go into in the next few slides. I just want to ask the question here, who thinks governance is quite important in today's IT? Who thinks it's lacking? Yeah, maybe, definitely, it's severely lacking. If it wasn't lacking, we wouldn't have the outages we have across basic services. I mean, Any organisation, I work across a lot of organisations, and governance is probably last on the list to get any attention at all. They're all focused on having a service desk and incident management, and that's as far as they go. So a lot of immature processes out there, and governance, I think, is quite important. And there's quite a heavy focus on it in this course, which is good. I mean, you'll be introduced to it in foundation, but they'll go into it more in the intermediate level. So don't expect to be coming out of the foundation course with a expert level of governance in IT. You will have an understanding of how it works. And obviously, what we're trying to provide there is value. Now, when I train these courses, I talk about value. What do you perceive as value? If you're going to buy something, let's just say we're going to go have some drinks later on. What's value to you? What do you want? You want quantity? You want quality? You want both? Yeah, well, I don't know about that. We'll try. But I also look at it from the perspective of ROI or VOI. So you know the term ROI, return on investment. So some organisations and people want return on investment. But anyone here work for a not-for-profit or a charity or, yep? Are you always looking for ROI or VOI? VOI, value on investment. You don't want to put all this effort and energy in to get money back. You want to provide services which help people survive and get through situations that they really need help with. So it's not always about money. You should always think about the ROI or VOI, and that's what we're trying to focus on by using this SVS. Now, as I said earlier, the SVC sort of resides as a part of the actual SVS. And they've actually broken it down. So this service value chain, that's obviously a blown up version of it here. And the best way I could, unless you can think of any other way, the best way I could think of the 6 value chain activities were PIDOT for me to remember them. So you would need to plan, improve, engage, design and transition, obtain and build, deliver and support. And this is where I started to think, this sounds very similar to life cycles, stages of life cycle. Strategy, design, transition, operation, continuing improvement. Would you agree? Yeah, because you're planning. Where would you think you'd do your planning? In operation? I hope not. Strategy, probably. And design. Improving would be a part of continual improvement. Engaging. I'd say there's a design and operation, because you engage with an operation, but also design as well. But hey, yeah, definitely you could engage with an operation. You've got design and transition. Well, that goes without saying, doesn't it? And then you've got obtain and build, and then deliver and support. So we'll go into those more in the next few slides. But again, you've got the demand here, so the same sort of structure. So it's just a smaller version of this inside the SVS. The only difference is between this one and that one is that you've got the governance, guiding principles, and the continual improvement practices sort of giving you that structure there inside the SVC. So the practices would be incident problem change, release configuration, availability, capacity, information security, all the various processes that we used to know from B3, which are now good practices. And of course, what we're trying to do there is provide value. So this is the mapping I came up with. It's subject to change, but from my analysis, this is where I think it fits. And that's not just based on the word, that is. I actually read the concepts as a part of PIDOT to identify what the steps were as a part of each individual activity from the 6 activities that I identified there. So strategy, continual improvement, design there, design transition, transition operation. So when I've done the analysis for the course and also the assessment that you'll get access to if you want, I've based it on the concepts from B3 and said, okay, what can we take, what knowledge can we actually take with us from B3 to apply to B4 and only have to learn those few extra bits that we need to learn. So to do that, I'm just going to show you here a way that in which we can help to differentiate. For some reason, this one's set. It's not displaying anything I want. It's meant to be showing you something. I do apologise, but what's meant to be here is meant to be. I've got to show you. Sorry, it's no point me trying to explain it. You need to see it. Now very odd. Always happens, doesn't it?
Well, it's running on a computer.
Hey?
It's running on a computer. It's part of the course.
Of course it is.
Call the service desk, Scott.
Well, what do you do, eh? Okay, so there you go. We'll just close the slideshow. Just grab yourself a drink while I'm doing this.
Is it Wi-Fi access you're looking, Scott?
Alright?
Is it Wi-Fi you're after?
No, just for some reason it's not displaying, or it should be displaying. So.
We'll just go to the bar and come back and follow, right? No, it's the references going back to the course.
Well, never mind. I'll just have to talk you through it. So, what happens down here is the actual information about the module. What I'll do is I'll open up the actual module, module 3 to show you from the actual course that I've got here. And module 2. There you go. So this is one of the module 2 about the guiding principles. What we do is we put down the bottom here the actual how many questions are in this module. So if you're studying this, you know straight away how many modules will be, how many questions will be included in the exam. Now, if you don't feel comfortable with this module, which is module 2, exam weighting 15%, you might be have done an assessment, or you might have been looking at it going, I really don't understand this, and you go, hang on a sec, well, it's five questions and 15% exam weighting. Maybe I should spend some time on that tonight. So it's really important. We've sort of done the homework for you, so you don't have to try and work out. I mean, there's some modules which have one question. Now, if there was one question in there, as opposed to 20 questions, which one would you spend more time on, do you think? And so we try to cut down, give you a short circuit or a pathway. Obviously you've got the module number there, and you've also got the reference to the book. So if you need to, as a part of your book, let's just say you went back to your workplace and you want to learn more about ITIL guiding principles, you could actually look up reference 4.3. Now, you'll see a star up the top right hand corner. Now what that means is, we'll go back to the other presentation. This one. So you'll see a star at the top right hand corner. So we put that in as a reminder. Now, I don't know about you, but ITIL is not the most exciting topic in the world. I'm not sure if you've cottoned on to that. And after a nice, delicious beef stroganoff, and it's like the heaters are on, your eyes are like struggling. It's not because I'm boring, of course, it's just human nature. You know, you just want to try and just have a bit of a snooze and pretend you're listening. So we do this. So even if you're asleep, noise, that means, and there's a star there, we're going to highlight it. So I've actually got the actual text there of red, blue, yellow, green. I'm not sure why that's not yellow or green, by the way. Maybe I'm colourblind, I don't know. But either way, if you're sitting there and you hear that, you're going to look up. I can't go back to sleep now because there's no noise. We're trying to make it as easy as possible because we understand that you've got other things on your mind. You know, you may be dealing, especially when you're in the course, you've got people ringing you because things are falling apart at work and they're doing stuff. You know, what did I miss out on? You hear that noise, you know, and even if you don't hear that noise, you've got the manual. In the manual, it's got the star in the book. So you can just go through the book and go, okay, module 2, what do I have to learn? Star, 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 star. And you're probably thinking, how did he do that? So what I did, I took all of the examinations I've got access to, legally, and not the real ones, by the way, the mock exams, and the knowledge I had of what I've learned from the trainer sessions, and I've reverse engineered it. So I'll just go through to this slide here. So what I've done is, I'll go through the question, right? And in the question is a rationale, and the rationale points to a specific criteria, which is 5.2.5. And I'll look that up in the book, and then I'll find out where it is in my slides, and I'll highlight and put a star there. Go, okay, the mock exam questions referring specifically to this content, and that might be across 3 different areas.
I'm your assistant, here to help you throughout your day. Here are some things that you can try saying to get started.
Shut up, no?
Yeah. My apologies.
Peter and I have known each other for years, so I don't know if I said that. But anyway, what I'm trying to say there, I've done all the homework for you. So all you have to do is come in, look for the stars pretty well, and then sit the mock exam, which you use the assessment tool, which I'll show you in a moment. And you can pretty well knock this out in no time at all. It tells you the module it's in, it tells you the page it's in, so it's very simple. So you don't have to sit there and, I know your time poor. You finish work, you've got kids, or you've got to make food or whatever, you've got 20 minutes. What can I focus on? We've done the homework for you. Make it as simply as possible. Get in there, learn it, understand it, apply it. That's what it's about. We're not here just to take your money and go, thanks for your certification, see you later, and kick you out the door. It's about building that relationship with you, supporting you, helping you to apply those concepts so that you can come back to us time and time again and grow with the frameworks and understand how to apply them. When I first started ITIL, I was working at EDS. Anyone remember EDS?
Yeah.
Oh, I would go to work. Now, I'm not sure what your role was there, but I was look after Integral Energy, which is a Sydney power company, I think. And it was really bad. They're now HP bought them out. And I'm not joking, it was so bad that I got to the point where I felt physically sick in the morning. And I couldn't go to work because I knew, especially when there was going to be a rollout. There was a release, guaranteed it was going to be better than work. I had no time at all, and I needed to apply these concepts. But back then, there was nothing like this around. There was no ways to short circuit or work out how to get there faster. If you had a choice to learn something in 1 day or 3 days, which would you choose? And it was exactly the same content, and you'd have exactly the same knowledge. What would you choose 3 days? Which brings us on to champions. So as my assistant Renee here, champion self-assessment. So how much do you know? How can you tell what you need to learn? There was a person I worked with in a company here in Melbourne. I asked him one day, I said, who's the most knowledgeable in ITIL in your organisation? Do you know what he did? Do you know what he said to me? Have a guess. He licked his finger and he put it into the air. Remember the way the wind was coming from, he said. That's where the knowledge is. Well, I don't know what that tells you. But anyway, he didn't have a clue. So how would you know right now what you need to learn? How would you go about it? What would you do? Is anyone here that thinks they don't need the full 3-day course for ITIL 4? You don't know, do you? Yeah. So that's what we've developed this tool. So I've worked in conjunction with HDAA to develop this tool to work out how to assess people in the topics you're interested in, to get a comprehensive report highlighting your strengths and weaknesses, to see which areas you need to study and which areas you don't. And our motto is to be smarter, faster. And it's not just about assessment, it's actually having fun. One thing I've found doing ITIL training for the last 12 years or so is that, as I said, it's not exactly exciting stuff. So I tried to make it a bit more fun, tried to gamify it a little bit and put some game logistic type things inside it. I'll show you what I'm talking about in a moment. Now, everyone loves a bit of competition. You also get to save money and learn only things you need to learn. Obviously, if you're doing a 1-day course instead of a 3-day, it's going to be cheaper. You save your time, you save your money, you get the same knowledge out. So this is a quick video. Quick video to show you just a demonstration of what happens when you use champions. Come on, ready?
The quiz game. In the games library, select the quiz game you would like to play. Right now we are choosing ITIL 4 Taster. On this screen you can choose a colour for your avatar. This colour will represent you in the progress and final game graphs. Of course you can also choose to watch the tutorial before you start the game. Once you're ready, click play to start the game. A countdown will appear and then you're straight into it. Here's what the game screen looks like. On the left is the timer, which shows you how much time you have to answer the question. Below that is your current score. You can see how many questions there are and how many you have already answered, along with whether you got them right or wrong. On the right is where you can see ghost players and watch them lock in their answers in real time.
Oops, I was going to pause that, not really go to the next. Sorry. I just wanted to talk to you about that specific point. Ghost players. Ghost players are really important, I think, because what happens is you play against people that have previously played the game, and it's really, I guess, fun when you're playing against someone in your organisation or someone that you know. Because we play this a lot, and it's not because I built it, but we recently did the ITIL 4 one, ITIL V3 to V4, which is available now. And I'm playing against Chris and Rennie, and there's 2 Chris's in our company, and then a few other people. I even got my wife to have a crack, and obviously she didn't know much about ITIL, but it was really fun beating people. Now, if you don't beat everyone, who cares? But the whole point is having fun, and when you're having fun, you learn, right? That's one thing I found doing ITIL training. The more fun it is, the more interactive it is, the more you learn, the more you retain. So those ghost players are really fun, and it's even better if you're playing against your CEO or someone who's your department manager, because they're on the line. I can't be beaten. But the thing is, what we're trying to identify is the champion, and I'll let it continue. I'll talk more about it.
Question. Below that is your current score. You can see how many questions there are and how many you have already answered, along with whether you got them right or wrong. On the right is where you can see ghost players and watch them lock in their answers in real time. This is data pulled from other games, so you can see how you're going compared to others who have played this quiz game already. In the middle of the screen is the important part, the question and its answer options. They may be in any format, text, an image, a video, or an audio recording. Choose the answer you think is correct. The box will go yellow when you've selected it, but you haven't locked it in yet. You need to click Submit Answer. Hurry before the timer runs out. Oh no, I chose poorly. Not to worry. You might notice that some new options have appeared to the left on the screen. Now you can view your progress, view the rationale for that question, and give feedback on the question. If you click your progress, a graph pops up showing you everybody's score so far in the quiz game. When you view the rationale, you can see some more information about the question and why the answer.
So this point is really important, right? When you're learning, I don't want to find out later on what the answer was, because if I'm on this topic and I get that question about what the definition of warranty is and I get it wrong, I want to understand what the rationale is. And what we do is we also put a link in here which takes you directly to that module on the e-learning course on what warranty is. So you can instantly go back to that, and you can stop all the quiz, stop the assessment, and learn. And when you're ready, go back to it. So it's really important that you learn as you need that information, not do the whole exam and then go, what did I get right, what did I get wrong, oh, I got 26, what did I get wrong? Because if I just gave you a PDF, there's no way you can actually do that. It's too difficult. Even when I was learning to become a certified expert, my trainers, I'd say to them, look, I don't quite get this. Where am I going wrong? And the answer I got from this guy who's well-renowned in this industry is, I don't know. It wasn't real helpful. So it's really important that we have this pathway, and that's what we're trying to offer you here, is a short circuit or pathway to learn faster, learn smarter and be faster.
Is correct, or in my case, why my answer isn't. You can also choose to give feedback about the question, how well you understood it, and any other information you feel.
So this is really important as well, because feedback, it's a two-way conversation. We need to know why you didn't get it right, so we can feed back to you. So if you didn't understand something, you went, I did not understand this at all. Is that because I didn't explain it properly in my course, or was it because the slides didn't portray the information? Or I need to find out why. So I need feedback from you to say, hey, help me here. And if I get that happening on one question in particular from a lot of people, I'll review what I put into the slides and the way I educate people to help you and the people after you to learn more. So that's a really important part, in having a two-way feedback mechanism.
Feedback about the question, how well you understood it, and any other information you feel would be helpful to the quiz game's author. Let's keep progressing through the game, and you can see that I got the next question correct. Finally, I'm at the end, and now I can click the finish button to see the final results. Well, I'm not the champion of this game, but I did pretty well comparatively. Fred got me this time. You can navigate away from this page using the buttons on the right. Now let's go look at the world ranking of this game and see how I ranked. Hey, I'm ranked third in the...
That's another thing, there's a world ranking. So it's based on a time and how many you get correct. So if you get a 40 out of 40 correct and you answer it within 2 seconds, which is highly unlikely, you'll be the #1 ranked world champion of ITIL 4. Now, there's no way currently to actually rank yourself against anyone else in the world in ITIL or anything. It's not just ITIL, by the way, it's any topic. So if you like this, or let's just say you said to Ian, I want to do project management, I'm not sure where I'm at. Can you do a project management quiz? No worries. We can set that up for you. It's not just ITIL. So having that world ranking and understanding where you're at is really important as well. Because one thing I found is, when I worked in some organisations, quite often the people who were running the show didn't really know what they were talking about. Ever had that situation? They're very good and very good at being loud and telling everyone how great they are, but when it came to the crunch, they didn't know what they were talking about. Yep, so you know what I'm talking about, right? And this puts everyone in a fair position to say, this is where you're at.
Well, this quiz game right now. Not bad for a beginner.
Okay, so that's just the video of champions. Now, I took this yesterday's screenshot because we were doing the testing of the V3 for bridging. And I thought it would be important for you to understand how we structured the questions. So what we've put there is a preface to the actual question. So this one says, the question below relates to financial management within the service strategy stage of ITIL V3. Now, straight away, if you've done ITIL V3 and you remember financial management, you should know the answer to that question. Now, if you get that wrong, it's either you've forgotten or you need further study on that. So as you can see, there's 35 questions here. You've got a score, as said the previous one. And then you can submit your answer. So the other ones, if it's new content, you'll say the question below is new content for ITIL 4. And straight away you know there's nothing attached to it in ITIL 3. Really helpful information. Now, the way in which the results are shown, you can see here on the right-hand side, I want to show you this one first, which is the individual. This individual got 10 out of 35. Clearly, they're deficient in ITIL V3 practices. Also service value chain, service value system, and I would even say concepts of service management. So they're not very skilled, they're really good at knowing ITIL practices. So if that was yours, where do you think you'd study? If that was your graph. You'd straight away know where to study, wouldn't you? Yeah. Now the thing is, we can run this as an assessment across an organisation, and we've done a number of consults recently with HDAA using it across an organisation because people come to us and say, look, we don't know where we're at. So we ran the same assessment across 40, 50 people, and we combine the data, and as you can see, this data here, which is understanding ITIL practices, correlates with this person. I know that's cruel, by the way. Correlates with it breaks it down by the category legend. So you've got understanding ITIL practices, they've got no knowledge in there. Now, if you're, let's just say you're running a project and it was a specific project on an infrastructure or rolling out a new service or something like that, and you need a specific skill set around ITIL practices, who are you going to choose out of these 4 people to run the project, if there are only 4 managers to choose from? Probably not Kura. So what we can easily do is identify your organisational capability. What you might find is that in certain areas, such as the service value system, you might be really flat, but other areas really high. And we start to gauge that by doing that assessment. Really, really helpful. Are there any questions? Any questions on the content I've gone through? Any questions on the assessment? Anything you thought you'd like to know more about the ITIL 4 stuff? No? I'll just, in case you wanted to, I've got all the modules here to show you what's in each module. Would you like to see that? Sure. Okay, so module 1. In the ITIL 4 course, you're going to look at the service, utility, warranty, customer, user, service management, and sponsor. Does that sound familiar? From ITIL V3, yeah? Continuing on, we've got cost, value, organisation, outcome, output. And those 2 terms are not really covered in ITIL V3, but they're in practitioner. The difference between an outcome and output. Risk, utility, warranty, all V3, and then describing the concepts, service offering, relationship management, provision, consumption. That's module 1. Now this particular module is all from ITIL practitioner. Does any of that look familiar to anyone? Focusing on value, starting where you are, progressive, iteratively, and with feedback. Keep it simple and practical. So it's very much focused on ITIL practitioner. Module 4 is only about 4 dimensions. We've got organisations, people, information technology. They break it down into those 4 different areas. Very short module. I think there's only one question. That's all I have. Module 4, we talk about the service value system, and we go into more detail about that. Like I said earlier, the service value system, so it's an overall encompassing system that we use to, which as a part of that will be the service value chain, which is a separate module, which is the next module. The service value chain, they talk about PIDOD, plan, improve, engage, design, obtain, and deliver. Again, if you can think of any other better acronyms, let me know. I'm struggling. PIDOD. I mean, it's better than nothing, right? Anyone remember Pixar from V3? Plan, identify, control. Can't remember the other 2. No? Part of release management. No. Okay, so it's service value chain as a part of module 5, and then module 6, stuff that you really start to know about. And remember, this is 17% in this module, and you've got 42 in the next module. Again, we're talking about recall the purpose versus the definition of all these practices. So ISM, relationship, supplier, separating the release and deployment, change control instead of change management. And then you've got the actual, I break down the actual PIDOD for you. Now, that's one thing I didn't talk about. Now, I don't want to get too deep into it because In foundation, it's not really that important, but they have a thing called a heat map. They put it in the book, and I wasn't sure whether I should include it or not. And I want to expose you to the concepts, because if you're going on to intermediate, you're going to need to know about it. A heat map tells you at which stage of the pie dive it's most important. So where would we use continual improvement? Across the board, as you can see. But monitoring and event management, we're not going to do it in planning. We're only going to use it in improving and what's that one again? Sorry? Engage. Thank you. So it gives you an understanding of where the various practices are used across the actual 6 stages or 6 activities as a part of the SVC. So that's probably a one-pager that we'll have as a part of the actual handouts, which you can just look at the guidance. But again, in foundation, probably not going to use it that much. Probably more so intermediate level. I think it's definitely important to understand what it means. And module 7, you're looking at continual improvement and change, etc., easy problem, search work. Now, look at the difference here. If I just go back for a sec, it says recall the purpose and recall the definition. So, what is the definition of event management? What is the definition of problem management? Unknown underlying cause of one or more incidents, for example. Now, what they talk about here on 7, they talk about explain the following practices in detail, including how they fit within the service value chain. So even if you know what change and incident and problem and service request and service tests are, how do they fit in to the SVC? So it's not much point in just knowing those concepts without understanding how they'll impact the SVC as part of the overall structure of the SVS. It's like having a car, right? Your car is your service value system. What's it made up? What are the chain of events that have to occur for you to get from A to B when you're using that car? What do you need? What bits? It's accelerator, comes in handy. An engine, brakes, steering wheel. Don't need indicators. What was that? Wheels. Wheels? What about wheels? That's the chain. Okay, the system is the overall system joined together that makes up that service, either it's Uber or a taxi or a bus or whatever. And we also talk about recording definitions. So this content here, recording the purpose and recording definitions of change and service desk. What I didn't want to do is double up on content because they are called out in the previous module here. I'll take them out of this module and combine them into this module because otherwise you're going to learn the same content twice but at different levels. And I thought combine it together and learn the actual purpose, definitions and how to apply it all at once for service desk and change control. So what do you think? Different to ITIL V3, do you think? Do you think they made a mess of it? Do you think it might be something you'd like to do?
What's the benefit of ITIL?
To keep in alignment with the current best practices and to apply those concepts.
I don't see anything there.
I think it's the...
want me to go to the form because
I can understand that.
looking at whether it's a life cycle or an SVS or an SVC or whatever, that's just a red badge. What's incident management? How do you adopt and adapt to your organisation? How do you measure it? How do you govern it? How do you improve it? Is any of that changing in form?
It changed slightly. It just
Or is
changed.
it just a terminology change?
No, there's definitely some of the wordings have changed on the way that approach it, but the actual fundamentals stay the same.
Give me own side. Take it to the dark side.
Well, the way that they've approached it is because of the integrations with the other frameworks which use those concepts of SBS and SVC and understanding Agile, DevOps, that sort of thing. Now, because I don't work in those areas, for me, I guess it's good for me to speak to someone who's doing DevOps and understand how to integrate with them.
So I haven't learned anything in Agile, so bear with me if I say. With ITIL 4, how does it align in terms of Agile?
Just
Or
to
how would you apply ITIL 4 as opposed to from an Agile or DevOps?
Well, you use it's exactly the same, but the actual implementation of the approach now has been applied to coexist with those frameworks. So that if you're not doing things in silos, because you do stuff in ITSM world and they do stuff in Agile world, there's no links. The links are now the terminology and the concepts of the SVC and SVS to integrate so that they can weld together and have more of a solid bridging rather than, I've done my bit here, you do your bit, and how do we make this work together? So it's a way that most of the companies are moving today, and Agile's really taking off. DevOps is really taking off. It's huge. There's a DevOps thing happening here in Melbourne very soon, an event happening. You may want to go check out that and see how that works with ITIL. Sorry? DevOps Institute. Jane Grohl is her name. I'll find out the details and I'll get Ian to put it on to you. So that, again, that's not my world, and I don't want to go into telling you what they do because, to be honest, it's not my world. So, Peter.
Just to add to what Scott said, and he's absolutely right. It's trying to think about V3 was back in 2011.
Yeah.
The DevOps sort of movement has evolved since then, and there's a lot of overlap and commonality.
Yeah.
Now, the idea of DevOps, by and large, was that, and I used to be a software developer, a project manager, and development used to develop stuff, throw it over the fence, and say, now, ops sort this out, right? That's designed to link. Yeah, it does still happen, absolutely it does. So it's designed to bring those in. Agile is a new thing, which is about trying to work quicker, smarter, harder, which in some ways can actually add to the problem of development in that they're trying to do it quickly, it's got to go to market quickly. So it's also about trying to make what I'll call the operations side, the ITIL side of it, more efficient in delivering. But the one key thing I got out of it, and I'm no expert, all right, but when I did the trainer sessions, the one thing I saw in it, which I think is very good, is that you will have heard them talk about the alignment of IT with the business. I say that's rubbish. IT is the business, right? This thing that IT is separate to the business is ridiculous. And what they've done is also, as Scott you've seen in the presentation, with governance, whilst you're not going to get into governance, what it's designed to do is try and align the organisation, the processes in ITIL to the strategic direction, the strategic plan, and try and make sure that the outcomes that are being delivered fit together. So it's a broader, more holistic. So I think it is, I personally think it's a good thing from what I saw, and it sort of starts to bring that back into a way in which you've got your organisation, which is the strategy side of things, lining up to what's going on at the tactical and operational levels throughout the year. Again, I'm not an expert, but certainly in the presentations that I saw, that was a very strong message. Some people were concerned that it was going to focus more on governance and those sorts of things, which don't necessarily affect the day-to-day, but what it does do is it's designed to show or help you understand where you're fitting in the overall scheme of things, which I think was missing in the previous.
A lot of the trainers I revolve around are really flat out busy doing agile project management training week after week after week. It's becoming more and more of a common thing. And what we're trying to do here with this also is to talk about, we know these processes back to front, right? The instant problem change, they've been around for years, right? It's not focused on that, even though that's a core part of it, because they're the core fundamentals. It's, as Peter says, integration of and having that holistic approach for the organisational change, which is going to be done using project management, using agile methodologies, using sprints, and also the DevOps. So it's trying to make everyone speak the same language without everyone having to speak ITIL. Because you know how much people who are developers hate ITIL? They'll just won't go down that path. It's like, no, we do our stuff this way. It's like, well, okay, let's find a bridge that we can. You can do your thing in your way, and we do it our way. It's an alignment to other frameworks, and it's the way that a lot of organisations are going down that pathway. You can continue down just the process pathway, but you're going to get a lot of kickback, and people are just going to not adopt it as much. unless you have that way of integrating.
Processes or practices?
Practices, thank you. Practices.
I think what Scott just said is absolutely correct. I mean, the fundamentals you'll find have not changed. All right.
Okay.
What it is I'll call it the overarching and how it links these other things together. Yeah, exactly. So that those things work more efficiently from an organisational perspective, and as I said, ultimately line up to whatever the business strategy, the business outcomes are. I mean, some of those are very broad and you won't necessarily see exactly where they fit in, but it is designed to sort of make sure that it sits within the overall structure of the organisation and that there's some governance and control over that as well.
That's a really big thing culturally too, bridging
Yeah.
the gap.
Yeah.
And it's been in the same space.
Yes.
I think organisational change is either misunderstood or not taken seriously enough, I think, in a lot of organisations. And ITIL incorporates that quite heavily. And it's not a new thing, it's been around for many years, but it's understanding how do we... I mean, technology is changing so fast, and we've got so many projects on the go and so much infrastructure changing and services and blah, blah, blah. How do we make people keep up with the times? Processes work, organisation change works, but we also need the DevOps people to be on board with that and the Agile project people and talk about it and so on. So as I said earlier, you're always going to have continual improvement there, no matter what you're doing, and you're going to have those governance, and as Peter said, it's aligning the governance of the IT and the business together, so they're in unison. And that's been quite a heavy focus in the last couple of changes in the few frameworks that have come out. Yep.
That's an interesting statement that you said there about organizational change. Does the ITIL V4 framework have a statement on how organizations should actually manage the transition from operating
There'll be
in
guidelines.
silos? Yes.
Yeah, so they've come from ITIL practitioner, and they've talked about using different methods. So there was the Gartner hype cycle, and there's the a few others that they use as well. Cotter's 8 steps, and a few others as well. But I can't list them all off the top of my head. Sorry? Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so just to clarify, yes, ITIL practitioner does have, right? It contains the tools to manage that transition. So what we're saying is ITIL V4, because ITIL practitioner is now part of ITIL Foundation for V4, offers guidance. However, does the course, for example?
The foundation specifically won't, because it's about, again, setting that foundation, understanding the terminologies and how things fit together.
Yes.
It won't be until the intermediate levels that you'll get the methods for applying those concepts.
I think it's good to understand that foundation is largely about being able to talk the talk,
Yes.
and then the next levels are about starting to walk.
Yes.
All right. So the foundation is. I prefer the term fundamentals myself, because they are the fundamentals of what you need to know in terms of IT operations and so on, and how they fit with the rest of the organisation. I honestly believe, and I am very genuine in what I say, I think what they've done is a good job. Are there some other things that can be improved? Absolutely. I think at the Train the Trainer events there were a few things that were identified that I think over time will be updated, and I think what you'll also see, I could be wrong, is that you'll see progressive updates of these things. Would you believe continuous improvement as we go along, as opposed to these constant big bang updates, which is what really makes it difficult, because then you've got to try and bring your knowledge up. So certainly if Axelos is listening, and I think they are, they're certainly looking at, dare I use it, sort of maintenance releases, minor releases and major releases. Okay, that's the conversation I've certainly had about the way we should move forward from here.
And if I may, as a consequence of there being no real change since B3, which Peter so-called record, 2011 vintage, now when it was really written, I'm going into organisations now and I'm seeing them struggle with ideas and concepts. And I've asked them to do a skills audit. I went back, honestly asked people, what are your ITIL skill strengths? They've had such turnover, and sadly to say, TAFE and universities have not embedded ITIL into
No.
its courses, despite our hammering on their doors, their new employees say, oh, we understand ITIL, but they've done nothing to get competencies in it. And it is starting to impact on the organisations. So the timing of this is actually brilliant for us all to stop and think and do that refresher, do the bridgings and get people across. And I'm afraid to say a lot of people are going to look at it and think we're going to have to start again with 30% of our staff.
And that, I guess, is my question. So if you've got a mass pool of people in your foundation, there is no bridging, you just basically got to do it again. Is that
No,
right?
no, we
No,
offer
not
bridging.
completely. Not completely.
Perhaps
A proportion
I thought
of.
it was just,
It's a
read it
proportion,
afterwards.
So 17
No.
credits.
I mean, you can bridge, and that's what we've developed, a bridging course, but there won't be many companies that offer a bridging course.
Yeah, there's no such thing as an official bridge.
No.
Unlike under V3, there was a bridging course. The idea here is that you will do the learning that is, I'll call it upskilling of your knowledge from 3 to 4, and you then have to sit the entire exam. All right. I actually think that's a good thing because it's almost recertifying you, and it also encourages you to go back and have a look at V3 as what was in as the fundamentals and just refresh yourself on that. I don't think there's any harm in that whatsoever. But at the end of the day,
what we are offering is that assessment. For example, organisational assessment. You run it across 100 people. We put them into groups and say, okay, group 1 needs module 2 and 3. Group 2 needs module 3 and 5, and group 4 might need module 7 only. And you just try and that cuts down the cost because you're able to put people in for a 3 or a 4 hour session, get them up to speed, sit the exam. That's your bridge. You don't have to do the whole course.
so if anyone sees anything that says bridging, there is no official bridging course. All right, and everyone has to sit the entire exam.
But we would not offer a bridging course unless we had something like the assessment tool we've got to assess your staff or even your individual, because otherwise you're just guessing. You have to have some way to quantify the knowledge.
Yeah, the thing is too, it's even though they might have V3 foundations, how much do they remember if they've done it 5 years ago? And what do they need now to get up to speed to pass the full ITIL 4 exam? And that's where something like Champions comes in, because you can do an assessment, see where your shortfalls are, and that's where you need to focus. Because I imagine people will want to upgrade their certification to ITIL B4 because one, it looks good on the CV if they're changing jobs or even if they've got promotions internally. I imagine that people will want to have that updated to the latest version.
And because there's an overlap between the different frameworks, I mean, when I first came across SVC and SBS, I never heard about them before, but I don't come from a DevOps and Agile background. If I come from that background, I might have known about them, but not incident, problem, and change release. So you can't just assume that because you don't know them, other people do as well. So that's why you have to do that capability assessment across the organisation. Go, okay, let's group and put them through 2 hours, 4 hours at a time, and not take up those 3 days for a group of 20 people. Very much cost effective and time saving. I think that's the key, is time saving. Yep.
With the new foundations, which is probably what most people are going to do first, is there much knowledge that's extremely sort of fine line between right and wrong? Something that might have carried over from 3, which is quite similar to 4, but is no longer correct. Same thing you often get when people practice ITIL in an organisation when they sit the exam. They used to do something one way. There's a slight difference.
No, the only difference, which I don't think they assess on, is they call change management, change control now. And release and deployment are separate. Just minor things like that. But I don't think they've actually assessed specifically on those terms, maybe the concepts. I think there was a question in one of the mock exams along the lines of what stage, what process, what practice, what practice that deploys something into the organisation, something like that. And it's deployment management as opposed to release management. So it's understanding what release does versus deployment now. Even though they are combined together previously, they were 2 separate activities, and then it's now just called 2 separate practices. So.
And that is service request management. It wasn't request deployment. can't remember, it was requested for Form 2 or 3. Got it on the slide there from the bottom.
Service request management, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you still have fulfilment in there, yeah. Service request management was the term, yeah, that it had fulfilment there. But that used to fall underneath the banner of service desk as a function. So, but again, they don't talk about functions anymore as well as things like that.
So is it redundant between service desk function, or
To my knowledge, yes. I didn't see it
is it
anywhere.
replaced with anything else, or it's just gone?
It's practice.
So
So there's little tricks like that which might trick it out. Nothing that's going to stop you rolling out something.
Now, it's not up there, but you know your service visits,
Yes.
governance. Do you do any courses or at the intermediate or above which helps us to mature our governance model?
I would say yes. I don't have those details yet because they haven't released them. But I would say there would be quite a...
because I'm not sure some organisations do it well.
Yeah, I agree
They have
with
it
that.
at all.
I think we all agree with that.
Probably in the drive stakeholder value, I would say, and maybe plan, direct plan and improve might be a bit of governance in there.
That's sort of like, see that as CSI.
I don't have any syllabus, nothing. This is as much as I've
It's
got.
just interesting that the word governance is used.
Well, because it's such a large part, if you look at, look at
Whether
the,
you apply to those 15 practices or not, governance.
so because it's got such a large portion here of governance, I mean, look how big practices is. You'd expect that governance would be reasonably large. It wouldn't be just 2.5 pages. So that'll be it. Anything that's in here, like the guiding principles, is quite a large amount of topics. Continual improvement, of course, always is. Practices are. So I'd expect that governance would have same sort of
What's the definition
volume.
of the guiding principles?
The guiding principles are the where were they? It's the
Is that part?
no. The guiding principles are from ITIL, practitioner, I should say. Yeah, I'm just bringing them up. This one here. Module 2. So focus on value, starting where you are. So it talks about not reinventing the wheel. Look at what you've got, set a benchmark and improve from there. And you do that by getting feedback from the current customers and use different iterations to incrementally improve, not try and do one big bang, as Peter said a moment ago. Collaborate, promote visibility. That'll be things like organisational change and helping people understand how to promote it and create champions in the business. Thinking and working holistically, thinking about, it's not just about ITIL, how can we integrate other frameworks and things like that as well.
So you've got to explain the use of guiding principles. You don't have to explain the use of whatever governance or some key things that reference back to.
Not in the foundation. Again, it's probably, there's only so much they could fit in, I guess, in the foundation work or points that they wanted to. I know. That's fine, no problem. Anyone else questions? Or are you all thinking about drinking alcohol? Eating food, no? Yep.
I was going to ask, for those people that, for example, while in the year sitting on, say, 15 credits, too shy
Yep, to get a bridge, yeah.
before the bridge occurs and then ITIL 4 gets rolled out, they effectively have to start all over again and go back down to the ITIL 4 foundations to start all over again. That's what I'm hearing. Is that right?
By the time that's 2020, when they pull the plug on all these current courses, on the V3 courses.
You've got to learn 2020.
I think mid-year, Peter?
No, I expect it's going to be late this year and early next year. for the next level. I don't want to give it a name. And the reason foundation is being released now is because obviously there's a lot of people out there that have got ITIL foundation at some level, and the idea is to try and bring as many people up to the current level as we possibly can, because it will be fundamental to the next levels to have your ITIL 4. So even though you might not necessarily today gain a huge advantage, I think it would be, this understanding what's going to happen, and there's lots in it, but ultimately to move up then you will need to have the ITIL foundation, the V4.
If you're at 15, getting to that mark, I'd be talking with Ian or some of the staff there to say, look, map me out a strategy or plan so I don't have to start from scratch. What can we do? Because we
only need 2 more points to do a bridging course which will take you into either 4 at one of the high levels, the master level or whatever. So there isn't a 2-point course, so you're still going to have to do one of the 4-point courses, something that you have maybe CSI or something like that. But at the town meetings we had earlier, late last year,
April last year,
September. Was saying V3 will be available till at least July 2020 and probably beyond. So they are encouraging people to, if you're up like you are at 15 points or even 12 points, get to your 17 and then bridge across, rather than having to start at foundations on V4 and then get to your masters that way.
And like I said, I think the value is in speaking to Ian or HDAA to say, look, I'm willing to go down the speed through pathway to get the mouse to bridge over and work out how we can get that V4 foundation just as a part of a package to bring you up to speed with the fundamentals as Peter outlined, so that when you do get into, you want to go down that intermediate path and become a master, you don't have to study the entire amount. It's getting your heads around those SBS, SBCs, and the 4 dimensions as the main 3 things which are coming out of V4 that we need to get your heads around.
Question: if you do the bridging course, it is just to get the course done faster, but you have to actually do the exam for all those things, like foundation and.
So with the this one here, so if you do the bridge, is that what you're talking about, the manager professional bridge, you'd only sit 1 exam and you'd get this qualification that covers all those 4.
Only 1 exam?
Yeah. It wouldn't be an easy exam, by the way. No. But you'd have to do it so the syllabus would be aligned to cover each one of these topics to bring you up to speed, which would incorporate a lot of foundation stuff that I would say, if it was me on that journey, because when V2 went to V3, I had 2 options. Either do a bridge and get V3 certified, or start from scratch. I chose to start from scratch. Just because I wanted to know everything about every stage of life cycle. Because I'm training, I get questions all the time, I have to answer them, so I had no choice. You may not have that option, you might go, no, I'm just going to bridge across. I would have set that first before you can set the bridge.
But I heard that this bridging course is not ITIL official course.
It's not available yet. It won't be available until I'd say November this year. Maybe.
It is an official ITIL course, from Excelos.
Yeah, official accredited ITIL course. Yeah, as long as you just make sure that they're accredited training. HDAA is an accredited training organisation, so whatever they offer is fully accredited and worldwide recognition.
And the exam for that bridge will come from PeopleCert.
Was that right?
I thought it was.
Is that not every trainer HDAA is only one of the few that is doing the bridging course?
Yeah, there will be. You've really got to be careful, and this is not just to say, look, make sure you buy HDAA. There's a lot of sharks out there in the market at the moment, a lot of great trainers who are not certified. They make their websites look fantastic, and the courseware may not be that fantastic, but they make everything look perfect. And you buy the courseware, there's no accreditation at the end of it. You go and try and do the exam, you can't, because they're not on the list. So to order exams for any of these courses, they have to come through an ATO. If you try and order it yourself, forget it. You're not ever going to get it. So you're wasting your money. So make sure you're dealing with someone like HDAA who is an ATO and accredited with the Axels and people.
The internet's a great thing, but there's a lot of people out there that try to pretend there's something that they're not.
That's what we try and offer value. It's not RI, we're offering here, VI, we're both Australian-based, owned, operated. A lot of companies come from overseas and try and poach your work and just no support and are not certified. A lot of great training companies. So really be careful if you go on industry.
So if we don't have the 17 credits, we can't do that middle way.
You cannot do that bridge, no. You have to
No,
go.
forget about the bridge. So I have got 17 credits.
Yep.
And I'm going to be at module 4. I still have to start from the bottom.
Start here, yep.
You can't just go into
No. You have to find, go through the foundation, and then you can get into any one of these streams that you can go through.
So from foundation to, so it's 5, 6.
Yeah. If you look back at the previous one, there's a lot. They've narrowed it down, and like I said, they've sort of taken some of these. There's a lot of overlap. There's like 30% overlap between, say, RCB and transition, and OSA and SO. So,
yeah, it was really difficult, that model, to run intermediate courses, 9 different intermediate courses, with the marketplace in Australia, with nowhere near as many people as, say, the United States. So to get 9 courses off the map for public training was nigh on impossible. That's why eventually we started doing a virtual classroom, which we could still run them with a lot of numbers.
Canberra, Sydney, Melbourne, all over the place, all at once. Online. Steve, would you enjoy online training?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so I didn't pay him to say that, by the way. He just recently studied online, first course ever, and every student I train online live, because I do all the training for online live, they love it. They actually prefer that than the classroom. You're from all over the country, sometimes from other parts of the world. Depends on the class that we're running. And that was the difficulty with intermediates, and it showed us a way that we can do that exactly with this.
Yeah.
And we can do 1 day a week over a certain period of weeks. You don't have to do it all at once. We can break it up. However you want to travel involved, it makes it really easy for you to deliver.
Peter?
Yeah, I might stand here so people can see me over there. Just a couple of things. As Ian knows, and he mentioned the town hall events that we ran last year, which were mainly for the accredited training organisations. One of the things that we have been trying to impress on Axelos, and I've just come back from Athens last week, where I've been beating the drum again. We must have a product roadmap so that you guys can see what's coming, when it's going to come. The other thing is, this is hot off the press, we will, as in PeopleCert, are going to be offering significant discounts on the ITIL V3 intermediate level courses. So to try and encourage people to actually still take those courses, with a view to, if you look at where you're at and you can see that there's value in taking 1 course or 2 courses to get you those points so that you can get across quickly when the later things come, we're going to be doing things with that. I'll obviously be talking to Ian about that, but we're looking at initiatives to not just stagnate while we're waiting for the other stuff to come. And of course, depending on where you are and depending on what it's going to look like down the track, that's a little bit hard, but you'll certainly be able to, if you're only a few points short, then you can obviously pick that up and you're not waiting and then having to do it when it comes. You can do the extra bit. All right. But then I want to stress that there is, for ITIL Foundation, there is no official bridging course. All right. Every ATO will do it differently. All right, depending on who their clients are and what their needs are. All right, and that's what Scott and Ian are trying to sort of convey today.
Yeah, I guess what we're trying to do at HDAA is give you a bunch of options.
Yeah.
Really, I try to make decisions based on anything in my life. I just like to know what the options are. What's the best way forward? So, in terms of transitioning from V3 to V4, sure, we can't offer you a bridging course that's going to get you there without sitting the full exam. So we're trying to use some things like champions to assess where you're at, and then that will tell us what the best, cheapest option for you is. It could be a 1-day course, it might be a 2-day course, And you can do the online course, or you can do a virtual classroom course. So having all those options to suit your needs is what we're trying to do. And as Scott said, we're trying to bring you an Australian product. We're not buying anything from overseas.
Yeah.
And all those options will be based in Australia. Even the online training is all coming out of Australia.
Australian owned and operated companies in the United States. So.
Yeah. Any more questions? Cool. We'll certainly will be sending more information out as things develop towards going live, and exams will be available, Peter, 12:01 a.m. on the 28th of February.
As of midnight on the 27th.
On the midnight on the 27th. Part of being in Australia, we are a bit ahead of the rest of the world in terms of time, and many other things as well.
So,
but in terms of time frame, so if you're really keen and you want to be the first...
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you want to be like your Apple iPhone and get it first, then be ready at midnight.
Can I just make a note on that nobody in the world is able to run any courses unless they have a certified trainer and certified courseware.
Yeah.
So again, if you're looking around, make sure you confirm that they have a certified trainer and their courseware is certified, and if people so. If not, it's a scam.
Yeah.
If you're getting quotes, a really important question are, what is their success rate? Ours has been over 94% success rate. So the exams, that's just extremely high. I don't think you'll find many people doing as well as that.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, Ian, if you are in doubt, and as Scott has said, there are a lot of organisations out there trying to capitalise on ITIL 4 that are not accredited and marketing themselves as. People we're responsible for shutting those down. If anybody finds one of those organisations, please let us know because we don't want people spending money in places where they may not get the best result, and obviously we want to support the organisations that are accredited with us. So if you're in any doubt, check our website. There will be a list of, there is a list of the accredited training organisations, and then if it's not there, ask and check, ask Ian, ask Scott, whoever, but just make sure that it is somebody that has actually got accredited courseware and accredited trainers.
Definitely.